Imagine a secret door you can only unlock using sunlight. Well, I may have made one with vibrant visuals. Let's check it out and let's sit back in Minecraft. It feels good being back in my creative testing world. I've been thinking about something for a while now, where if we're to make an entrance which you can only open up at certain parts of the day, depending on vibrant visuals. So let me show you kind of what I'm meaning. So we set it to day like this. You can see that it creates a shadow on this side, and then this side of us is of course getting lit up because of the sun. And then maybe we were to get a trap door, kind of like the mangrove trap door, because it's got a hole right in the center. And then we were to do something like that, where you can see it creates little holes just like that. And then if you were to imagine that we're to fill this in with maybe lodestones or something with, you know, quite a unique texture like that, only at this part in the day, because the sun moves, will the sun be cast on these two. Then who knows, maybe this could be a button. In fact, all this could be buttons, and then because of that part in the day, it tells you exactly what buttons to press. Does that make sense? And so the more holes that we add, the trickier it becomes. And of course, just to show you exactly what I mean, we can place this down here, and you'll see that the sun will only light up the correct buttons at that specific time in the day. Does that make sense? Now, of course, this is just an initial idea. It's not very good. Let's try and come up with something slightly better. And you know what? We might as well take advantage of another piece of technology that we've already got in this world, because I've got a working sundial. You might have seen it, you might not have. There's a full video about it. You're more than welcome to check it out. In fact, let's take the finished designs items and then we'll start trying to refine that. So there we go. There's our working sundial rebuilt. And so we can basically try and use this to tell us what time will be on the wall and how to unlock the base. I'm just thinking, because I'm not the best with redstone, this would be very hard to try and tidy up with redstone and create and make it functioning, so I'm not going to do it on the floor. Let's instead try and think about how we could do something on the ceiling. So you could kind of say this is like our first prototype, and then again, same kind of thing. If we were to just punch holes, we're going to get rid of the trapdoors for now. In fact, I've just basically done the exact... Will this work on the ceiling? Maybe this has to be slightly angled. So if we're to just kind of go like that and then keep the holes exactly where they are. In fact, we want this to be as thin as possible. And you'll understand exactly what I'm doing in just a moment. The reason why it's bad if that was flat is it means the sun would have to be directly above in order to make it work. Whereas if it's a slight angle, it could be at more, you know, different sort of trajectories. I think that's the best kind of way to go about doing it. You'll see that it creates this kind of shadow. And again, it tells us where to go. So we could have a wall down here now. And then you'll see that shadow start to go, and it's just going to get projected on this wall. In fact, maybe is it getting projected on the top? This could be tricky. I thought, having done the sundial, I thought this would be a lot easier. And so taking a look at the sundial, let's go for 3 o'clock. That's going to be our magic number. So I'm just going to add 500 until it gets in line, and then we'll start going in smaller amounts. So we could say that that's bang on 3 o'clock. And then this tells us when it's 3 o'clock, this one lights up, this one lights up. So what we could do instead, we'll have buttons, and then there's another hole. So we're going to move this. Let's move it to right there, and then that will tell us where to go. But that's kind of, if you imagine this is a wall of buttons, it's not exactly very clear because of how big the shadows are. And so something like that, because of how big the shadows are, you know, it could be multiple buttons, and I kind of want just one button per shadow. And if we turn on daylight cycle, you'll see that this will start to move quite quickly as well. So you'd have to be very quick. That does make it more secure, the fact you have to get it bang on the specific time. I don't know. Let's spend some time trying to refine the shadow. And imagine, in fact, I'm going to turn this off. I think it's best to try and find something that works and then go from there. So let's refine some of that. So you can see that that's narrowed down the shadow quite a lot. Has that made a difference? It has. And maybe a slab there. Or maybe one there. There we go. So that kind of tells you that is that button there. That's not the best either. Can we go back further? Can we place one there? That's better. Okay. And then maybe we do that. So that did not take long to get that button looking exact. Maybe one there. Perfect. One there. Okay, so you can see exactly what I'm meaning now. We'll try and do something with like a rhyme, or we'll hint that it has to be 3 o'clock, and then you know that it's exactly these 3 buttons. That's really cool. I mean, this could work. Imagine this was a roof of a building, or maybe a broken building, and there's these holes in the roof that just cast the light specifically on these buttons. But coming out from these buttons, if we were to just run repeaters, in fact, redstone torches is probably better. If I could not destroy the block, that would be good. And so I'm just kind of wanting something like that, where the redstone is just gonna kind of all meet on the same level, and so that way they're all in line. And then we could make a pulse extender, which I do know how to do. In fact, let's invert the signal so they get all back down onto the same level, and then that runs just straight into an AND gate, which basically means that this and this all have to be off in order to get this off. Does that make sense? If we're to power that and power that, you can see that the redstone signal is still on. So then we can just basically run this along and then into a door, kind of like that. And so if you imagine that's our door, so we have to press that button, and that button. And then it opens up. I mean, for the first sort of design, that's not too bad. I mean, went from that to that. But I think we can go even further, because I don't really like how this looks at all. And I'm thinking as well, because I want this eventually in my survival world. That's the main plan for all these kind of builds. I'm going to rebuild them in my survival world. So I'm going to try and match this theme, because I've got certain areas which look really run down, and it would just match really well if we can try and get this sort of mossy theme, and we can have it in my custom terraforming project I've been spending a lot of time on. And so I'm going to go for that, which just looks quite cool. It's just kind of mossy, and then we'll start trying to... I was going to round this off and make it look really sort of man-made, but instead I think what we'll do is we'll just make it look like the moss is kind of overtaking it, and so it's just kind of something a bit like that, where it's very natural looking. And so then we can do something like that as well, and then we get the buttons on. In fact, see, buttons would be cool, but imagine it was like a word combination lock. Imagine it shone the light on the correct words, and then you had to try and input those words. And so to make it easy, I'm going to place all these signs down, and then I've done something with the sign where I've put this character and the letter L, and then that will just make things in big text. So we can do things like that. We'll just do random letters of the alphabet. And so I was thinking it'd be quite cool if we could make this kind of like a cave. So I'm going to stand, you can see the bottom of my player. I'm going to stand where I want the letter to be, so I'm going to go for that one there. I'm not sure what that is, and I'm going to set block. I'm just going to do stone, and then you'll see that it's done that exactly where I want it. And so where the shadow is going to go, we'll eventually remove that, and then that will tell us exactly where we need to have a hole. And so I think we'll go for this block as well there, and then we'll go for the letter V, I think that is. And so you can see our 3 letters. Of course, the shadow is slightly too big, so we're gonna have to use slabs like we discovered as well. And because we're using stone, because it's like a cave, we can use the stone slabs and stone stairs, and that should make it look quite good. So I'm just thinking, in fact, let's change these to red wall, or red concrete rather, just so it's easier to know which blocks we're going to be getting rid of. I think this should have been a lot bigger. This is really quite a small space. I think if we're to, this is just basically like, this is like the cave concept. We're going to do something like that, and then you'll see that it kind of blocks out that entire line because of the shadow, and then we remove that. You can see exactly, we're going to go for the letter V like we decided. So let's place a block there, and then that kind of does it perfectly. So that's that whole line set up. So we're looking exclusively here, we know exactly it's going to be V, and then this one here, it doesn't matter because we're not looking for anything, so we can try and build in this, try and get that cave look about it. And then I actually think this middle one is going to be the trickiest, so we're going to leave that for now. Let's try and work on the top of here, and so we can go something like that, and then start to bring down on this side, and then if we remove that, you can see exactly which one lights up. So we're going to go for, let's go for K, so we'll do that, and then that's perfectly lit up as well. And of course this one doesn't matter, so we can start just filling this in willy-nilly. And then this one here right in the center, let's just go up like that, and then bring it down this side as well, and then punch out the concrete. Did we get that first try? Oh, we did. Look at that. So there we go. So that's kind of, it will tell you exactly which ones need to be lit up. So that's actually quite a cool concept. And then it'd be easy because we could just have items lying about. You then rename it to those 3 letters, you toss it somewhere, and then it opens the door. Let's quickly build that out. And so there is our door. Make it so you have to put stuff in here. Let's get an anvil placed down as well. And then for the item filter, I'm going to rename a full stack to KBV, and then we place that all in there, and we'll also have that running into a pulse extender as well. And so it's 3 o'clock. All we've got to do is then go in here, take the paper out. So let's go for KBV. So let's rename the paper, and then we put it in the item hopper, and then this will open up. But you can see that very quickly, if I turn on daylight cycle, the code gets completely jumbled up. That's a working prototype. So now we can start working on the actual final design. And so we're going to go back to these sort of mossy blocks, and then I'm going to try and basically build that, but bigger and at a better scale as well, and make it look better as well. And so I think something like that looks quite good. And then we'll basically just take these signs, and rather than using letters, because I don't know if there's enough letters in the alphabet for this space, so we're just going to use words instead. And so I've just looked up a random list of just random words, mostly 7-letter words as well, so they all kind of look somewhat the same. So I've just cloned this and moved it a couple blocks up just so we've got some room to play with. You'll have an entrance here, and then this will be kind of like a spike, and then in the spike will be the holes. So this will be tricky. So let's set it to 3 o'clock. We're going to have to really go up a lot with this. So I think the words we're going to go for, there's even some American swellings, so some people will be happy with that. We'll go for venture, and then we'll go for journey as well, and then we'll go for iceberg. And so let's try and map out. Let's go for journey first of all. So let's try and block it out. So again, we're just going to use exactly the same trick that we did last time. That's journey gone. So let's get venture as well, and then iceberg as well. So I'm just going to build out. So I think what we could probably do first, rather than tackling this, let's get the kind of ceiling up. We're probably going to go back and work on this, but it's just going to be like a rough shape like that, because there's no way this is going to interfere with anything. And so let's get some stone slabs as well. And so if we're to do something like that and then remove it, you can see that the word iceberg is exactly lit up. So that's quite good. That's one done, and we have to try and tie it all together. This took a long time. Okay, this took a long time to try and line up. So you can see that there's these gaps here, and the sun shines perfectly, lights up the word iceberg, same with journey, same with venture. So that's our 3 words, and that's exactly right. So I believe I could start kind of overhanging grass, and it'll really start to look kind of like my cliff face on my survival world. I have blocked something out. Which word have I removed? Is it this one here? Oh no. See, this is the problem with that. I've also added this kind of skylight here, just trying to throw people off. I've lost the word iceberg. I need to try and get that back. I'm also imagining where this is, we kind of extend this out, and then this is going to be kind of where the door is. So we can bring the moss and all this kind of stone out and kind of have the door here somewhere. We might even angle it as well, actually. So it's kind of like that. And the pistons can pull away, and it will kind of leave kind of a door which opens up like that. I think that will look quite cool. I don't know. I'm just going to try and play around with it and see kind of where I get. I also want to include this sundial somewhere. I might even move this further in the air, because I feel like I'm going to run out of room if I'm going to try and put redstone underneath. I just kind of got in the groove of terraforming. I think this looks really cool. This looks exactly like the kind of cliffs that I've got in my survival world as well. So you imagine this is kind of where you'd walk along, and then you're met with this, and then you can see I've extended the moss along. I've got that angled wall as well, and then eventually once you get this code right, and that took a while, by the way, trying to get these lining up properly. You can of course use the sundial, which is up here, which hasn't been built yet. I've not put in the things yet. It should work exactly fine. I mean, the sun's from there, it's the same angle, everything should be fine. But then this will open up, and then it will lead you somewhere. I'm not sure where, but it will lead you somewhere. So we can build that back up just now. You can also see as well, I've raised up a couple blocks just so we can try and have more room to play with. I'm sort of imagining this is kind of water level here, and so you can see just how far up this is going to be sticking out of the water. So let's quickly get the sundial in place. And I was just going to copy the items from here, but I feel like we need to try and make it more obvious that it's 3 o'clock and that's the time that they're looking for. So we'll grab the clock. We'll also get the item frame. We'll get an anvil as well, because we need to name the items. And you know what? Very quickly, let's just get an anvil in here. We'll just place one there. The lodestone as well, because we need to rename those items, but we also need to name the items to try and get the door unlocked. And so we can see exactly, I want this to be kind of obvious, because it's going to be quite tricky. There's going to be such a narrow window for you to get these words lined up. And in fact, I've not even checked. Let me make sure this actually works. This should line up exactly on 3 o'clock. And so it's getting there, and we can stand here and watch it. I've kind of designed it for that. And so you can see the 3 sort of holes as well. So that's kind of like a guide as well. I'd like to think it'll only illuminate the words for a bit, and then all the shadows will disappear, or most of the shadows will disappear. So you can see capture. That's not the word that we're looking for, but we're not at 3 o'clock yet. So I want it to be sort of lining directly up in the middle, and it should kind of be there now, which it is. You can see the venture, journey, and then iceberg as well. Iceberg's really tight. That is really tight to get lit up. Okay, that's quite good to know. So we might need to tinker around with that. I've also expanded this sort of gap in the sky. Might as well, just to try and throw people off, and it just adds a bit of natural light. We also need a bit of light here as well, so we might as well. And so I do this a lot in my worlds and in my builds, where I've just kind of got something like that, and that barrel could be used to hold the paper which people can write on. And so we just kind of scatter them in like that, so that can be where the paper gets stored. We've got the anvil as well, and then you can see that eventually the sun does not help at all. We've missed our chance to get in, that's all. We need to try and open up this door now though. And so you can see that's kind of done it like that, where these two just open up. So we've got kind of got like an angled door. I'm not sure where do we put the words? I know we said we could put the paper in here, but we could have this where you deposit the word. In fact, let's get some moss carpets, because we've got those. We don't have carpets for anything like that. And I believe if we were to get some hoppers, we could have hoppers running in, and then you have to throw it on the moss. I think that would be quite cool. Okay, so this is where we're at now. I've added this lectern here. I've added some banners up there as well. I've just scattered some paper in here. And you'll see if we go round, this hopper trail connects and it basically just stops here. And you can see the doors are just as they were. I've kind of brought this out as well. We are making a lot of progress here. I want to try and make like a cryptic book. There's a lot of things hinting to 3. So you can see there's 3 there. This, of course, in the sundial. I mean, that's a big hint. But just in case you're really stuck, I think we should have a book here which just says something to do with the number 3. And we could just have the number 3. I'm also thinking we could also have 3 is key. I mean, there's 4 pages. Can we remove a page? Oh, perfect. Press done, put that there. Now 3 is key, and there's 3 right, perfect. So 3 is key. So now we just need to copy what we've got from down there and bring up here, which is an item filter. And that's easy. And so something like that, where if it reaches the item, we'll of course set that up for the filter, and then goes in here, and then this will disable the doors. I think we should also have it where it runs into a pulse extender as well. And so to make this extra special as well, if we've got a note block there, and we've got a gold block underneath it, so it sounds like that. Let's pretend like this is our entrance to our vault or our secret base. I'll just remove the time as well. So we come here, there's 3 up there. We've got this, 3 is key. We've got a whole lot of random words up here. Barrel full of paper as well. And we can come over here to the sundial. We see that it's about to strike 3 o'clock. And it's the only one that's different. So that tells us it's got to be something to do with 3. And so we line this up and watch as it lines up. You can see that the shadows are going to start to spell something. So there's going to be 3 words as well. So you can see venture by the looks of it. Venture, journey, and iceberg. So that's 3 words. And it looks like that was the only 3 words that were visible at 3 o'clock. So it's got to be those words. So we get paper, we rename it, and then we take the paper and we throw it in the moss. And here we have it. Opens up into our secret base, our secret vault. Who knows? And then as the sun continues to move, no one knows. I mean, they could try something else. Mystery, reclaim, fiction. It doesn't make any sense. Nothing is going to work. It's just random words. I think this is really quite cool. You could make some really cool things with this. And eventually this will get added into the survival world. But I really want to work on something beyond this door, like a second challenge. So that was the first one. I'm not exactly sure. So let me know what I should try out for the next challenge. We've done one with words. I'm not exactly sure. I really hope you enjoyed. This was just quite fun, me just messing around with this, and I think we've turned it into something really cool, and it's always good to get another use out of the sundial. So thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Thanks.